Thank you, Patrick. Thank you all for being on. And a special thank you to my good friend, Dr. Cedric Alexander, who is with us. Me and Cedric go back close to 25 years. When I was a student at the University of Rochester, entering the U of R, I first met Cedric, but I also interned in Bill Johnson's office. And many of you that are on the call, as you know, Cedric is is not a new person to the media that is on the call, because many of you still call on him regularly to comment on local issues here. But Cedric is in demand nationally because of his background and his experience on police issues. So I'm absolutely honored to have my good friend Cedric here. As I said, I met Cedric as a student when I was a student at the University of Rochester, and Cedric was on the faculty and also getting his doctorate in psychology. Cedric is just a unique individual. Not only is he a law enforcement professional, but he also is a psychologist, which we know is absolutely critical as we talk about a lot of the issues facing us. Cedric has been at the forefront in terms of conversations about mental health in community, mental health in policing. And this was before it all became popular to talk about. He was 20 years ahead of his time talking about this when he was chief of the Rochester Police Department almost 15 years ago. He was talking about the importance of mental health, and he brought mental health into the Rochester Police Department. As many of you know, he was also our former deputy mayor, police chief, a member of President Obama's 21st Century Policing Task Force, a national expert on this, but more importantly, a friend to me. And I think that I want to say that from the outset. Cedric has been a great friend and a great advisor to this campaign and to me over the years on all issues as it relates to public safety, particularly the community component, which is absolutely critical. We are going to build trust and transparency with the police department, with City Hall. You have to understand the importance of that community component. Cedric lives those things, he exudes those things, and he is someone that I just have a tremendous amount of respect for. He is a man of tremendous integrity, intelligence, and intellect. And I'm just so glad that he took some time out of his busy schedule. I said, Cedric, come on, I need you. And he's here. So Dr. Cedric Alexander, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. And good morning to everyone that's on this Zoom. But let me start by saying, and kind of reverberating some of the things that you just heard Malik Evans talk about. We both of us, I think you were still a high school student when I got to Rochester in 1997. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but it has. And I knew then from Malik that he was going to be an up-and-comer in the Rochester community had he chose to stay there, which clearly he did do. But let me start by saying this. I think Malik himself is a very unique individual, someone who was born and raised in that community, an established and reputable family man, a Christian, respected, certainly have been in public service for a great part of his life, understand private industry and businesses as well by the mere nature of the work that he does today. And for those of you who know me and those of you who don't know me, one thing that I always try to make a habit of doing is making sure that I speak very clearly and honestly about an individual. And this is all about Malik Evans and his race for mayor, and an individual who I think has more than the capabilities, more than the intellect, and has the ethical and moral soundness of an individual. Someone that could provide leadership in that community, because in this country as a whole, we're in a very, very different place. We're struggling with a lot of social issues, and Rochester certainly is not unique to that. But I think Malik, and I certainly do believe from the bottom of my heart, that he will give that community all that he has, and certainly he has demonstrated that in the past. And I suspect, even though we learned along the way, and he certainly has learned, being an elected official, both there in the school board and on the city council, that it is all a learning process. And he has learned along the way. But the bigger question that I ask, if Malik Evans had not run for mayor, who would have run? you would be looking at a race right now with absolutely no opponent after coming off a year or 2 years of a very difficult time in that city. And we have to applaud the fact that he had the courage to step forward, because nothing is worse than a candidate running every 4 years and run unopposed, particularly a city as big and dynamic as Rochester. But had Malik not ran, you wouldn't be looking at any options. And in a democratic society, we all should have options. And people should have the opportunity to decide who it is that they want to vote for and for what reasons. So I want to applaud him for having the courage to do that, because had he not, that community at this very moment, whoever you vote for mayor, would not have an option. But today you have an option. And my option is from afar and still feel very close and committed to that community because of the time and the positions I've held there. I support Malik Evans for mayor, and I support him wholly, 100% without question. And it is coming from a place of my support as someone who is saying to myself and to the Rochester community, you have a young man here who has all the capabilities, all the skill sets, all the awareness, and all the support in order to move Rochester continually into this 21st century that is far more complicated, far more convoluted than we have ever seen this world or this nation in at this very moment. And there does come a time for change. And change has to be more than just some adage we use, but it has to have meaning. It has to be directed and influenced by someone who has a vision that speaks to the people and for the people. It's not about him. It's about him and his integrity and his commitment to that community, his demonstrated successes and his failures in which he have learned and grown from, which we all have if we served in any capacity. But Malik is the person for this very moment. And I would encourage everyone in Rochester, give thought, give consideration to Malik Evans, because there comes a time when we all need to turn a page. It has nothing to do with anyone personally or professionally. It has everything to do as to where we want to go forward, how we want to go forward, how we want to be perceived in our communities, and how we want to be perceived across this nation. You have a police department there in that community that feels demoralized, that feel crippled. And I know Rochester Police Department. I knew it 15 years ago. I knew it throughout the years, and I knew it up until a few years ago when I left. But let me say this, in spite of the changes that we all look forward to around reforms, and we all agree reforms certainly need to be made, we still have to have men and women who serve, who are part of our communities, to keep us safe and to protect us. But we cannot demoralize them. They have to feel that they have a place in our communities as well, because they are paid public servants and they made an oath and a commitment, and that requires leadership and a trust in someone in an executive branch who they trust and who they feel they want to go forward with. But largely, it is communities across Rochester itself. It is a beautiful community. It is a wonderful community. It's a community that I still brag about to this day to my friends across this country, in spite of what they may see on national news. But there comes a time, and the time is now for a change. And I vehemently, without reservation, support Malik Evans as your next mayor in the city of Rochester. And Malik, I'm gonna give it back to you, and wherever you want to go from here, let's go.
Let's go. Well, I want to thank Dr. Cedric Alexander, Cedric, or as I call him, Doc, for his support. It means the world to me. It means a lot to me professionally, but it also means a lot to me personally, because as I've said, me and Cedric go back over 25 years, and he's watched me advance throughout my career and my life. So it means the world to me to have the support of someone who not only understands policing, but also understands community. But at the heart of everything that Cedric does is also the piece of understanding the importance of mental health, in which he has been a leader on because of his unique background and what he's brought to the profession and to this nation. And I'm grateful and extremely humbled to have your support, Cedric. And I ask all the citizens of Rochester to remember to continue to vote this week. Early voting will go until the 20th. So I want to urge Rochester residents to get out and vote. It's flexible right now, and you can do it on your own time. And then remember the big day on the 22nd. June 22nd is an absolutely critical moment in our city. We have the opportunity to really make your voice heard by voting on June 22nd. So please exercise that early voting. And with that, because I know Dr. Alexander has a very, very tight schedule, and I'm so, again, happy and blessed that he was able to join us on this call. Patrick, we will open it up to any media that might have any questions. And I see that we have several that are on. So let's open it up to any media. Patrick, you can coordinate those calls.
Yep, sounds good. First question is from David Andriotta.
Yeah, Mr. Andriotta, you're still around. Go ahead.
I'm still around. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Very good. This announcement, of course, amounts to nothing short of an endorsement for your campaign, Malik, from Cedric Alexander. Question for both of you. Do you foresee, Malik, a position for Mr. Alexander in an Evans administration? And if so, Cedric, would you accept that position in return to Rochester?
You got to leave. My good friend from north of the border, David Andriotta, he's always known for those tough, hard-hitting questions. I will tell you, David, that you better believe that I will lean on Cedric for anything that I can get from him. You know, he's done great service to Rochester, and you better believe that he will be a part of anything that I do. Now Cedric's in a little bit of a warmer climate, so I don't know if he would come up here on a permanent basis. But I will tell you that Cedric will be a trusted advisor in some type of capacity, as he's been on the campaign. But again, remember, we got to make sure, David, that folks vote and get there. But I will tell you that Cedric has been a key advisor on this campaign, a key advisor to me for years, even when I was at the school district, as it related to safety, public safety, and community building. So I will always beg the doctor for his support when we need him. When Rochester's called him in the past, he's always answered the call. So I'm sure he will do the same. And I'll definitely look forward to my continuous work with Dr. Alexander.
So David, let me respond to that. And let me start by saying this. No. The answer is no. I will not be coming back to be part of the Evans administration, but here's what I will do. And if Malik is elected and he calls me up and he asks me to fill some role that he can temporarily fill until he do a local and national search for whatever that position may happen to be, because you have incredible talent there in Rochester that's untapped. You have incredible talent in your police department that is can be developed. And you have incredible talent across the state of New York and across this country. But no, I will not come and serve in some permanent capacity. But what I will do, if Malik calls on me to help him in any way or in any capacity, I'd be more than willing to do that for a brief period until he stands up his administration, because what's going to be critically important in the Evans administration is that he identifies talent. And I'm talking about smart people. I'm not talking about favors that are going to be owed to people. I'm talking about people who are capable and people who have the ability to be developed into tremendous leaders. Because one thing often that is absent in many administrations is a lack of leadership. And you have to have firm, strong, steady, and trustworthy leadership. And I am more than convinced that should Malik be elected to mayor in the city of Rochester, he is going to choose the best people around him. And one thing I admire about him is that he's not afraid to have talented people and smart people around him. I'm certainly not, because always I have looked for people who were smarter than myself and people who offered ideas that's going to make a difference. Having people, regardless of their race, their color, regardless of their sexual preference or religious preference, we have to find the very, very best people to serve in any roles of leadership in City Hall there in Rochester. And I know Malik is going to do that. And if there's any kind of way that I can help him, but it will certainly would be on a very temporary basis until he's able to fill those roles. I help anyone if they ask for help. And I'm oftentimes asked in many other places across this country that, quite frankly, I just turn down and deny. But Rochester is a very special place to me. I was educated there at the University of Rochester. I practiced there as a clinical psychologist. I knew people in that community long before I got into public service. But coming back into public service under former Mayor Bill Johnson as assistant chief and subsequently chief were meaningful. So that community is very much a part of me. I'm just as much a Rochesterian as anyone else. So I have a compassion for that community. I have a love for that community. There are people there that I know and love, and people that know and love me. And for me, this is all about nothing else but moving forward, and moving forward in a way that I think is going to be beneficial and take your city to a place that it has not been either in a very, very long time. But we have to move in a new direction because times are changing. They're changing quickly. It's far more convoluted and complicated than ever before. And we need someone who has the ability to understand business and industry, and someone who has the ability as an elected official to understand the needs of the people. Because one thing I'm certain about, this election is not about Malik Evans. This election is about the city of Rochester and its reputation, past and present. And it has an extraordinary history that cannot get lost in all the muck that is going on and has gone on.